Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Stolen by Ehlers to Wheeler, back to Ehlers, scores!
Kyle Connor has the Midas touch right now.
And another outstanding stop by Connor Hellebuyck.
Check the shoot, score! Oh, what a slick move by Mark Scheifele.
Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. I'm your host, Tyler Esquivel, joined by Jets TV's Mitchell Clinton and 680 CJOB's Paul Edmonds. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another week. This is episode 91, and if you listened last week, this is the Yuri Talusti / Alex Burmistrov episode, as they were the two Jets to wear number 91. Mitchell obviously guessed those. It took you not much time at all.
Got the first one. The second one, I need a little bit of a hint.
Yeah, that's okay, though. It was a while ago. All right, so I feel like there was a bit of news, around the team these last few days.
Just
Paul,
a bit.
I'll let you talk about it, Paul. I think that's a good way to start here. So obviously, Patrik, Laine, Jack Roslovic traded to the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for big Canadian centerman Pierre-Luc Dubois and a 2022 third-round pick. I think Jets fans are, just asking, why make the trade? So, Paul, why do the Jets make this trade? What benefits do you see in your eyes as to how this can help the team going forward?
Well, there's a number of layers to this, but I think that you've got to get to the first one, the most pressing issue for the Winnipeg Jets, which prompted them to make this move. Jack Roslovic was holding out. He wasn't going to come here and play without a contract, and he wanted something more, not just money, but an opportunity, which the Jets felt that they had given him in the past. So that's number one. But the bigger aspect of this is Patrik Laine, through his agent, had asked for a trade. And while he said the right things coming here at training camp, and it looked like he was going to be playing through, and the Jets controlled his contract after, or at least his contract status after this year, if somebody's not happy in that current environment, and it's not a Winnipeg thing, it's just that the Jets were looking long-term and saying, can we afford this player at $9+ million, the way our contracts are set up within our salary cap and a flat cap? If the answer became no, then you have to move that asset. So there was also sort of a similar situation going on in Columbus. So it made for a really good fit. And for the Jets, it's all about getting more depth at center ice. And Kevin Cheveldayoff said, I'm always looking, and I'm paraphrasing here, to make my team better. I choose to look forward. And in doing this deal, I think we did that today. That was the day of the trade a few days ago, of course. Now, it's a fan favorite. It's a guy that has a generational shot and a player that was working into a more 200-foot game. I speak of Patrik Laine. So that's tough and not very palatable to give up to the taste to Jets fans. But what you're going to get in this player coming back is a great hockey trade. It's a great player for a great player going one way and coming back. The Winnipeg Jets guarantee themselves some depth at center ice, not just immediately, but in the long term. Right now, you're going to have Scheifele. Pierre-Luc Dubois is the other player we're talking about that comes over in the trade with Patrik Laine, Jack Roslovic, and then the Jets get a third in 2022. And that's the whole package. But then you've got Lowry and Thompson and Stastny built up the middle. So that's the strength that they're talking about that's going to help them this year, not only defend, but help their defensemen in that five-man defensive game that they want to play better at. But at the same time, you're going to get another power play threat in Pierre-Luc Dubois this year. And you're also going to have some certainty going forward that maybe because he is almost a handful of years younger than Mark Scheifele, your number one center of the future, depending on what happens contractually with Mark Scheifele after this current deal is done in 3 years past this season. So it's not only immediate, but it's long-term for the Winnipeg Jets. And you also get a big centerman that's got some bite to his game and some offensive prowess. So it ticks a lot of boxes for the Winnipeg Jets. So yes, it's hard to give up Patrik Laine, but given what you got back, I think it's a very fair deal for both teams.
Absolutely. And center ice depth, as you noted, is something that many teams across the league are looking for. And the Winnipeg Jets appear to have that right now. Pierre-Luc Dubois. A quick note on that trade. The Winnipeg Jets do retain, I believe it was 26% of Patrik Laine's salary to make it sort of a 1-for-1 in terms of the accounting perspective going into this trade. Okay. So Mitchell, Pierre-Luc Dubois spoke to the media on Sunday. The Winnipeg media, that is, also did a few national rounds earlier on Saturday after the trade. What are your impressions of this player on and off the ice?
Well, I mean, first impressions of him are good. Listen, like the last shift in Columbus isn't going to go anywhere. People remember that, but I'm willing to bet it's also something that Pierre-Luc Dubois regrets, and he's answered for it. I mean, I thought it was really good that he said that, I've had like 3,000 shifts in the NHL, and a lot of them been real good. I mean, look at it, 10 points in 10 playoff games last year. That's not an easy time to get points. So I think he knows the opportunity ahead of him in Winnipeg is fantastic, especially given the wingers that are available. The guy is also a beast at even strength. If you want to talk about on the ice, he's a play driver. You look at the 18-19 season, it was his second year in the NHL. He's 40th in even strength points. Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler were the only two Jets to crack that list that season. So now you've got another guy there. He was top 50 in that department once again last season. And then you go back to his rookie season and until now, of all the Blue Jackets who have at least 1,500 minutes at even strength, so a fair sample size to take, he's second only to Artemi Panarin in terms of shot attempt differential. He's top 5 in expected goals percentage, if that's a stat that you look at. This is all at even strength. That doesn't even include what he can do on the power play. I believe he scored a power play goal against the Winnipeg Jets at Bell MTS Place as well. So he's a threat there. And on top of all this, guys, it sounds like he really likes Winnipeg, and that's a huge part of this thing. He's been here before, and I thought what really stood out was he said, when the season went on pause, he quarantined here with his parents. So he was in Winnipeg. And, he and his sister, they bought bikes, they ripped around kind of checking out the city. He really liked what he saw. And I think anybody from Manitoba will tell you, like, yeah, it's cold in the winter and whatnot. There's a lot of fun things to do in the winter. But I mean, this city, this area, this province in the spring and summer months is amazing. There's so much to do, so much to see. And I think it was really cool that Pierre-Luc Dubois got to see that. That's an important part of it. So there's that on top of it as well. And then obviously his parents, they now live here full time. So whenever Columbus was in town, he was, hanging out with his parents, assuming Eric was home and not on the road with the Moose at the time. I just think it seems like a really good situation for him on and off the ice here in Winnipeg. On the ice, he's going to play with some skilled guys. Off the ice, there's I think he gave a shout out to DeLucas as well. So he's really excited to go there. I just think it's a really good fit. Like Paul said, it's a good fit for both sides in this situation, and especially for Dubois in Winnipeg.
All right. So in the meantime, the Winnipeg Jets will have to wait the 14 days quarantine for Pierre-Luc Dubois. So they must forge ahead without him for the time being. If you look at the calendar, he's slated to make his debut on February 6th in Calgary, I believe. I know the Jets have asked as of this point to have that quarantine restructured to just be a 7-day quarantine. As we record this on Monday, we don't know the results of that. So February 6th is when we'll see Pierre-Luc Dubois in the lineup as of right now. Okay, so the task at hand here, obviously, guys, the Jets are 4-2 through their first 6 games. Paul, what have you seen from them so far? I mean, they've won in different ways. They've come from behind, even though they lose a heartbreaker on Sunday night to the Oilers with a goal scored 0.7 seconds left on the clock. They clawed back in the third period and really took it to the Oilers in that final frame. So what are you seeing from this team? I feel it's a little bit different than what we've seen in previous years.
Well, I would agree. I think there's a little bit more attention to detail defensively, and that's not that they didn't want to play that way before. I just think that there's been some maturation and growth in that department and understanding a little bit more about what your role is when you don't have the puck. And I'm not just talking about inside your blue line. So listen, did they probably escape that Sunday game kind of protecting the lead there if it's not for Connor McDavid taking over the game and setting up the last 2 goals? Yeah. I mean, nobody else really across the league has that ability to do that. So for me, there's a little bit of a sting to that for sure. You lose in the last second or 0.7 of a second. You don't get a point. You don't go to overtime. But I would chalk it up to saying, okay, Connor McDavid had his opportunity with us. We have to defend him a little bit better with a lead with a couple minutes to go the next time. Easier said than done. But I really like the way this Jets team has played with the defense pairings. It seems that they can roll all three. Same with the lines. I mean, even on Sunday, when you're talking about back-to-back games and a 9 o'clock Central start and then an 8 o'clock Central start, which line starts to come to the forefront in the third period of the game on Sunday against Edmonton? Your fourth line. And you're putting that fourth line out for a little bit of energy to help your team to shave off some minutes off your top guys. And they did not do anything that would warrant them coming off the ice and sitting in the middle of the bench. So from that standpoint, you're getting production, and you really are. Not from the top line, but also your second line. And now you've got Lowry with a few goals, and they're starting to punctuate some offensive ability there. Andrew Kopp looks like he's ready for a breakout offensive year after using the off seasons the last couple of years to work on his offensive game. So the offensive side of the Winnipeg Jets is coming in spades here. The power play started to click. It has a new look and some new wrinkles. I like that as well. The penalty kill is getting better. The goaltending, there's been no problem there. Even when there's been a goal or two that you might want to have back, the Jets just calmly kind of go about their business to say, we'll get it back. So overall, I think we've seen an improvement in this team in all facets of the game. The defensive work is still a work in progress, but boy, I think the Winnipeg Jets might be able to have the opportunity to outscore some mistakes this year and not just the top six guys to do that.
Absolutely. Paul, you touched on special teams a bit. Mitchell, what have you seen from the special teams? Obviously, they have some power play goals. The power plays are starting to click right now. Blake Wheeler scored from the hip pocket of Mikko Koskinen off of, I believe it's Chris Russell's shin pad. I do wonder if that was on purpose. I mean, he'd been working that spot, and 3 times in a row prior to that goal, Russell went down on all fours, and then finally on that third time he banked it off the shin pads. I doubt he did it on purpose, but it would not surprise me one bit. What are you seeing from the power play?
You know, it's interesting. I wonder if that didn't show up in the Oilers pre-scout, that nice little pass that Wheeler made to Kyle Connor against the Ottawa Senators. I as soon as I saw Russell drop the first time Wheeler got the puck there, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's in the pre-scout. But yeah, I think the power play, like you said, continues to be a work in progress. That group is obviously a whole lot different without Patrik Laine in that regular spot in the left circle. But like Paul, I've noticed there's kind of a lot more motion in this year's version, as much as, you know, Blake Wheeler's going to be at that goal line side, like you mentioned, in the hip pocket of goaltenders. You know, you got Scheifele and Connor on the flanks and Stastny in the slot, Morrissey at the top. They move around quite a bit. So I think that's something that kind of helps them generate a little bit of some shot lanes. Blake Wheeler spoke a lot about, you know, they're just running kind of similar plays over and over until they kind of get the look that they're going for. They got 4 power play goals in their last 4 games. So obviously something's working. They want to continue that. They've come up with some big goals for the Winnipeg Jets in each of the last 2 games as well. So obviously things looking good on the power play side. You want to continue that trend going forward. The penalty kill statistically has been perfect the last 3 games. However, I think situationally against Edmonton, and Paul kind of touched on it, as much as it was Connor McDavid being Connor McDavid, the penalties or the delayed penalties kind of put the Jets in a tough spot. So the delayed call leads to the tying goal by Kyler Yamamoto. The Oilers have the extra body out there. And then the game winner scored with, you know, under a second left is actually 2 seconds after DeMello is stepping out of the box. So some tough situations for the penalty kill to handle there. But outside of that, I think we've seen some real strides from the PK in the last few games, especially after a tough start. The first 3 games, they allowed a power play goal against in each of those. So it's always a balance, pressuring the puck when necessary, getting the stop on the entries, and then covering passing lanes as well. So Ottawa's power play struggled to kind of start the season, and Edmonton's was historically good last year. It's a little bit slower to start the year this year. So obviously a bit more of a challenge in the Oilers power play than, say, the Ottawa power play. But I think the Jets PK, you know, as much as they want to stay out of the box against the Oilers, I think they're looking forward to a second chance against that Oilers power play a little later this week.
All right, now it's time to get to our guest here on Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets. I had the chance to sit down over Zoom with Pierre-Luc Dubois on Sunday afternoon, and here's that conversation.
Hi, this is Mason Appleton, and you're listening to Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
Joined by Pierre-Luc Dubois here on the Ground Control podcast, the newest member of the Winnipeg Jets. Pierre, welcome to Winnipeg, first of all.
Thank you.
So my first question, when players find out they get traded, they could be doing a number of different things. I've heard guys have been eating a bowl of Fruit Loops, munching on a Whopper from Burger King, a bunch of different things. What exactly were you doing when you found out you were coming to Winnipeg?
I had a feeling that everything was going to go down in the morning, yesterday morning. So my first year in Columbus, I lived at David Savard's house with him and his family and his two kids, now 3. So I wanted to go see him, obviously because of the other rules. I couldn't go in the house. So I was in the backyard with him and his wife and his kids, and we were talking, and then I got the call, and it was a pretty emotional, hour or so after that, and of saying goodbye, but that's what I was doing.
Obviously, leaving teammates behind, and that's a perfect example. What's it like to just sort of be, okay, I got to go, see ya, and leave your teammates? Yeah,
it was, they had a game at 2 yesterday too also, and I had to leave at night, so I didn't really get a chance to even see everybody. I had to go pack and get everything done and get ready for the flight. And I also have 2 dogs, so I had to get all that figured out. But it's like I said, it's emotional. I had, a good time, 3 good years with those guys there. I had met friends that I'll have for the rest of my life. And, I sent some texts this morning and, probably a couple of FaceTime calls in the next couple of days. But, I had a really good time with that group of guys.
That's excellent. So obviously you rush home, you got to pack. What are the essential items that Pierre-Luc Dubois packs aside from the dogs, obviously? Like, what are the things that have to come? I mean, and you can't take everything.
Yeah. I'm in quarantine for 2 weeks. So a lot of sweatpants, a lot of hoodies, my PlayStation, because I'm probably going to be glued to that for the next 2 weeks. Like I said, I have 2 dogs, so I had to get all their stuff ready, get all that prepared. I put a lot in boxes to ship here. One thing I underestimated was I only brought 1 pair of shoes, and now I got to go shovel in the backyard. So my parents are here, but I can't see them because I'm in quarantine. So they just came and dropped off a pair of boots, put them on the front porch, and I'm ready to go now.
That's a perfect example of why it's good to have your parents here, obviously. I'm sure your dad will come in handy over the next few weeks, and mom as well.
Yeah, exactly. Right after I got traded, I called them and let them know, and my mom was extremely happy. My dad too. They said that they'd help me with the 2 weeks of not being able to go anywhere, whether it's groceries. They came yesterday and just dropped off a couple things. But yeah, they're extremely excited, and I am too.
So, you packed everything. Is there anything now that you're here in Winnipeg? Did you forget anything?
No.
Other than the shoes.
Yeah, the shoes. I I left a lot of clothes there that I'm just gonna ship. As of now, that's what always happens. At some point down the line, when you need something, you realize
you don't have it.
I forgot it. I forgot it, and now there's nothing I can do about it. But for now, I'm crossing my fingers that I didn't forget anything. So hopefully it stays that way.
So the 2 dogs, take me through them. How long have you had the 2 dogs? What are their names?
They're both sleeping next to me right now. One's English Bulldog, name's Georgia. I got her in this past May. So she's almost a year now. She's whiny. You might hear her during this interview. You might hear her crying next to me. And then the other one's Philip. He's a French Bulldog. He's the more energetic one of the 2, more of a bigger personality. He's 2 years old. No, he's turning 2. He's Valentine's Day, so he's turning 2.
Okay.
They love each other. A lot of energy, so I had to, put him in the corner for this. But they had a good flight yesterday too.
So, what made you get the second dog? Obviously, the pandemic had hit. A lot of people got dogs. Was that sort of the thought process behind that?
Yeah, well, I had the first one. I got Philip my 3rd year, right? Yeah, or my second year, end of my second year, and he every time like on days off, I'd go to Marcus Nudavar's house, who was a defenseman on our team, plays in Florida now, and he had a dachshund.
Yep.
And the dachshund and Philip would play for 4 hours together, and they loved each other. So then it got me thinking, and sometimes I wouldn't necessarily want to go for a big walk, or I'm a little tired after a game and stuff like that. So then I was thinking about it, and I just saw the opportunity to get an English bulldog. They have less energy, so I was like, okay, maybe maybe the French bulldog can maybe Philip will tone down to her energy level, and she'll maybe come up to his and meet each other halfway. So it's been pretty fun having the two of them together.
That's awesome. All right, switching to hockey questions. I guess what excites you about joining the Winnipeg Jets? Obviously, it's a group on the rise. They have a ton of talent up front. What excites you?
They were probably one of the teams I hated to play against the most. So to be able to turn that around and to play with them, it's going to be really fun. Like you said, they have a lot of talent, a lot of size, a lot of skill. Their forwards are really good. The Ds can move the puck really well. One of the best goalies in the NHL. I think for any player to be able to join a lineup like this one is pretty fun. It's exciting. I'm going to be watching their games, doing a lot of video, trying to find the tendencies for every player. And you look throughout the lineup, and whoever you play with, you're out there with good players.
This morning during your media availability with the local media, you talked about your game. You're big, you're fast, you're strong, you can shoot, all the tangibles that you'd want in a purebred centerman. You describe yourself to have. How has your game grown over these last few years in Columbus to become that player that you are today?
Yeah, I think that, like I said, growing up with a dad as a coach, or a coach as, growing up with a dad that coaches, he always told me that, there's not just scoring goals and passing the puck and getting assists. So ever since I was a kid, the small details of the game that I've tried to work on, and I'm still not there yet. I still haven't reached that full potential. But playing in Columbus, my first year, I started on the wing, then moved to center. So I started playing 10 minutes, and then turned into 15, and then 18, then 20 some games, and I've learned a lot throughout the years. Whether it's mentally or positioning, offensively, defensively, face-offs. I just started playing center when I was 18 years old full time. So, and it's a pretty complicated position to learn.
Yep.
But I think that, here with the coaching staff here and the players here, guys like Scheifele, and then Stashny and all those guys I can learn a lot from. I think that it's a perfect learning environment for me.
So looking at your point production in the playoffs there, you had 10 points in 10 games, you had the hat trick. Was there something that really clicked for you in that playoffs, or were you just feeling it? Just what do you sort of attribute that success to?
Yeah, I think hockey is a lot about, you're physically on the ice, playing well and skating well, but also I think just as big side is the mental side of it. Yeah. And, I love those games that when it's competitive, I love those games that, mean, the extra 2 points that mean even more in playoff hockey is that every game and every shift and every period. And, I was really excited. We had that long break, leading to the bubble. And then once you got there, it's a different game. And, it's something I think, like I said, once you can combine mentally and physically, that's when you're at your peak as a hockey player.
You talked about your dad. How much has your dad helped you over this last clump of years? And then how do you think that relationship is going to continue to grow being here in Winnipeg? I know with the rules and the COVID and whatnot, you can't necessarily see them all the time, but just how do you think having your dad, geographically close to you, like it is going to help?
Yeah. Ever since I was a kid, when he couldn't come to our games, I'd call him right after and we'd talk. And then once I started playing junior and our games are online, you try to watch them all. Even if he was playing, he'd watch it the next day after doing video for his team. So
yep.
We've always been close. And, the thing I love about my dad and in this sense is that, he's a father first and coach second. So he doesn't necessarily, pressure me to do anything. He doesn't coach me. He just, he listens to what I have to say. And when he feels the time is right to give his input, he does. And I think that being here, he'll be able to, to pay even more attention, the same time zone also. And, it'll be easier to watch the games, but he's always been a big part of me and my career. And, I'm excited to live closer to him right now.
So it was announced yesterday you're going to wear number 13 for the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, number 18 is held by Brian Little. 81 is Kyle Connor. Why 13? Is it because a 3 is half of an 8? Is that the reason?
Yeah. So right after one of my friends, it was really funny. One of my friends, I think an hour, a couple minutes after the trade, he calls me, and first thing he says is, "Okay, so I looked at the lineup. 18's taken, 81's taken, and my second number is 11." And he's like, "11's taken." And I was like, I didn't even think about the number
Sure.
part of and then as I was thinking about it, and then I've always kind of liked 13. One of my best friends growing up had number 13, and then like you said, the 1 completes like the 8, and it's like my girlfriend said that after I chose the number, so I was like, all right, that could be the reason why.
There you go.
That story, but really it was just a number that I liked. And Cam Atkinson, the guy in Columbus that I grew close to there, and was a good player for me that I learned from, has number 13. So I was like, all right, why not? It seems like the right fit.
You're a guy coming up to Canada to play in a Canadian market. Obviously, there's no fans in the building, but you could tell there's an energy, there's a buzz in the city right now, even though nobody's in the rink for these games. How excited are you to be playing in Canada? You're a Canadian kid. Obviously playing for Columbus, you didn't get up to Canada as much as other schedules would have allowed for it. But just how excited are you to be playing in a Canadian market that just loves hockey?
Yeah, I'm really excited. You see the whiteout pictures of the Jets in the playoffs every year, and all the videos, and it gives you goosebumps, and it's giving me goosebumps right now thinking about it. It's a different world. The fans here are extremely passionate. I mean, just driving back yesterday from the airport to here, seeing all the license plates with the Jets logos on it, and all over the city, it's definitely a different beast here. And as a hockey player that loves hockey and breathes hockey, and who's a big fan of hockey, growing up, it's fun to see, and it's a really fun atmosphere to be in.
Before joining Winnipeg, did you have any personal connections with any of the guys that are currently on the Jets or within the system? I know I looked at your Hockey DB page, and I think you might have crossed paths with Leon Gavanka in Cape Breton. I think it would have been your final year in Cape Breton, and probably his first, I would imagine. Do you know anybody?
So I played against Nick Ehlers in juniors. So he played in Halifax when I was in Cape Breton. And he was one of the best, if not the best, junior player I played against. So it's going to be fun to be able to play with him. And then, Leon, I played half my season in Cape Breton with him when he was there.
Yep.
We've kept, it's funny how life works sometimes, how small the world is. And so we've kept contact. And then he was one of the first guys that texted me when I got traded to Winnipeg. And obviously you can't see because of COVID, but it's still fun to know that, he's here, and I'm excited to meet the rest of the team.
It's pretty cool. Okay. Sticking with the internet, I was on your Instagram page. Your profile picture is Baby Yoda or Grogu. Are you a Mandalorian fan?
Not even.
Come on.
I'm not I just never watched it, but I just think there's just something about the Baby Yoda that I find is really funny. But yeah, it was him with Air Max shoes before, and like Nike had, and AirPods. And then I changed it to this one because I saw a little upgrade on them.
All right. Well, you have a 2-week quarantine as of now. You have zero excuse to not watch the show. So there's your assignment from Jets TV. Okay. Obviously, this is a terrible question because this is a podcast, but because I can see you have tattoos on your arms. I've noticed you're a big tattoo guy. How many tattoos do you have? And maybe if you can give us a story behind one or two of them.
I have like maybe 11 or 12.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure, to be honest, but it's around there, between 10 and 15.
Yeah.
My left arm, I know can't see because it's a podcast, but my left arm is pretty much it. Yeah, it is all my grandparents.
Okay.
My mom's parents. My grandma passed away when I was 1, and my grandfather in 2010. And they lived in Atlanta, Georgia, because my mom's from Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we'd see him. I saw my grandfather about once a year, but you know, he was a big motorcycle guy. He worked at Harley Davidson, had a lot of tattoos. So I was you know, really impressed by him. I thought he was really cool with all his tattoos. So, you know, I always tell my mom when I'm older, I want to get some for him. And so I have 2 of his on my arm. I have a church that my great grandparents built. Has a picture. It was a picture that I grew up, you know, always looking at, and it's a church in Michigan that I've never seen in person, just in pictures, but I've always been curious about. And then I have other tattoos. My grandma, my dad's mom, one tattoo that she wanted to get, her initials. And then I have one funny one that I have is my gym. So my gym in Montreal that I started training in at 16. We always joke around and say, you know, if one of us makes it to the NHL, it's going to be because of the gym. So we got to get the tattoo. And the gym owner said, yeah, I'll pay for it, you know, thinking that we'll never get it.
Yeah.
And then, so when I made it to the NHL, my trainer and, you know, the guy that I work out with, we're like, we all like tattoos also. I got to put that out there. We all like tattoos.
Well, clearly.
Yeah. And we're like, okay, why not get it? Why not? You know, it means something to me. To the gym is important to me, and the environment, the people there. So, you know, we're like, why not? And it was a free one, so I'll take it.
Excellent. Pierre-Luc, thank you so much for your time. Can't wait to meet you down at the rink, and best of luck over here the course of the 14-day quarantine.
Thank you.
Shop where the players shop. Jets Gear and TrueNorthShop.com are your authentic team stores. Make sure to stock up on all your favorite Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose merchandise today. Visit one of the 5 Jets Gear locations or shop online at TrueNorthShop.com.
All right. So thank you to Pierre-Luc Dubois for that conversation. Appreciated as always. And I really hope he watches The Mandalorian like I instructed him to. If you're going to have Baby Yoda as your profile picture on Instagram, you better watch the show. Anyway, after a busy last week, the Winnipeg Jets, 5 and 7 days, you know, they escaped that pretty well, I'd say. This week ahead, they only got 2 games, my bad. One against Edmonton and then one against Vancouver. Paul, what do you expect this week from the Winnipeg Jets?
Well, first and foremost, I think the game against the Edmonton Oilers coming up on the Tuesday, the second game of the series between the 2 teams, will be played similarly to what you saw on Sunday. It will have some tempo and some pace to it. It's just the way these 2 teams play. There will be some slight alterations to what the Winnipeg Jets want to do. And I think one of those might be a little bit more, I think, quickness to the offensive side and getting on the defensemen for the Edmonton Oilers and forcing them to maybe make some mistakes or bobble with the puck. So I think your Winnipeg Jets are going to see a little bit more hunt the puck opportunities on the forecheck. That would be the only thing that I think that you'd really want to change outside of maybe some containment of Connor McDavid, but you're going to see some pace to that game. Despite the fact the Jets were on back-to-back on Saturday, Sunday, and Oilers coming in here and watching the game that the Jets played against Ottawa on Saturday and then going out there rather fresh, the Jets had a lot of jam to their game. And with a little bit of listing, I guess, in the second period, they found another sort of level of energy in the third, and it was fine. And then you've got Vancouver coming in. And that's a team that's struggling. And it's another one of those late 9 o'clock starts on Saturday. The Jets should be used to that right now after a 9 and an 8. So I think that, you know, it's not like you're looking at, oh, we've got some divisional opponents coming in or non-conference teams or, oh, it's a conference team. So we still have, these are all divisional games. You're essentially in a 7-team league this year north of the border. So they're all important. As Paul Maurice said, we can't afford to burn any game. So the Jets will have plenty of rest now going forward with these 2 games. They get a day off on the Monday. They'll be ready for Edmonton on Tuesday with some slight adjustments, as I mentioned. And then there'll be 3 evenings off before you get to Saturday against Vancouver. And the Winnipeg Jets will be well prepared for that one as well against the Vancouver Canucks team that out of the gate, surprisingly, is struggling right now.
Speaking of well-prepared, it appears Nikolaj Ehlers was extremely prepared for this season, Mitchell. The guy has 7 points in the first 6 games. He's on a 4-game goal streak. To me, he has looked like a bit of a different player. Obviously, he broke through, got his first playoff goal in the play-in round against Calgary. But, you know, through this first 6 games, he just looks different. He's completing passes from the strangest places. He's on his keister. He's completing passes, and he's putting the puck in the back of the net. What have you seen from Nikolaj?
It's been a real joy to watch him from the perspective that we have inside the rink, and that it's a view that I haven't really had before. So if you're familiar with Bellantias Place, there's certain areas that certain people, you know, watch the game from this season, just to make sure it's easier for contact tracing, not all over the building. So for us, or for me anyways, it's in what would be the King Club. And so I'm able to kind of look at the ice, say north to south, as opposed to east to west, like normally in the press box, and watching Nikolaj Ehlers skate and this, you know, the players that are in front of him and how the play develops, it's amazing. And the seams that he finds, it's just at a whole other level this year. I talked earlier about Dubois and his analytics and how they have been for the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's Nikolaj Ehlers for the Jets over the past 3 seasons. He's the team's best in terms of even strength shot differential, also top 5 in expected goals. But this season seems to have found another level. He's so dangerous all over the ice. Controlled zone entries have been his bread and butter for years. But you look at the goal to make it 2-2 against the Oilers. It's him taking the puck into the Edmonton zone, not rushing with it, not just firing it away to get it, you know, down deep. There's a strategy, makes a nice area pass to Paul Stastny. Stastny hits him on the return, and boom, it's 2-2. You mentioned the 4-game goal streak. It's the 3rd time he's done it in his career. It ties a career high for him. I mean, he's unbelievable this season. So he's got 21 shots on goal. That also puts him inside the league's top 20. So that's an emphasis on that shooter mentality that Paul Maurice wants him to have. He plays his best hockey when he plays with speed and he's shooting the puck. He's doing both of those things. You add that to the line mates he has with Andrew Kopp and Paul Stastny. I mean, they're an absolute handful for an opponent, and Ehlers is a huge part of that.
You know, if I can kind of interject, Tyler, on that, I just one quick thought. I mean, you sort of nailed it on the head, Mitchell. The other thing that I've really seen this year from Nikolaj is that speed in straight line and then that quickness to the middle.
Yep.
And that's buying him so much more ice this year. You know, Paul's talked about getting him in straight lines instead of that loop in his game. We haven't seen a lot of loop in his game. It's been a straight line and then a dart into the middle, and it opens up everything for him. And with the speed and the shot and the vision that he has, once you get to the middle of the ice, there's a lot more opportunity for distribution or for a shot toward the net.
Nail on the head there, boys. Before we close things off here, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to Patrik Laine, Jack Roslovic for all their time over the past handful of seasons. Both of them were extremely gracious with their time as it came to Jets TV stuff and Paul radio things, I assume. Yep. Do you guys have a memory of the two of them that sort of sticks out?
For me, I was actually just talking with my wife, Callie, about this. For Patrik, it was always, if there was ever a question about, you know, team composition or, you know, possible trade rumors or things going on in the National Hockey League, and if he didn't, you know, really have an opinion on it whatsoever, he was always like, I don't know, I just work here. So I always thought that was funny. And then, I mean, the barbs between him and Nikolaj Ehlers was always, you know, something to enjoy, whether that was on camera or one was being interviewed and the other one was just chirping the other. I always enjoyed those. And for Jack Roslovic, he was a guy that I think was, you know, maybe he wasn't as loudly outspoken all the time in the dressing room when we were there doing media stuff, but he was always just a guy that, you know, if you wanted to sit and talk to him, I mean, everybody's going to remember when he went down to the rink at the Forks and was dressed up and nobody knew who he was. That was his idea. He wanted to do that. He came to us with the idea and we thought obviously it was fantastic. And he was a big part in making that happen. So like you said, can only thank them for all their time and effort with us.
Yeah, from Jack's perspective, he was a little bit of that happy-go-lucky guy, right? He liked to have a good time. He had a good nature to him. I got along with him great. I echo what you said, Tyler. I appreciate every time that I went to him for an interview. And the one thing that I'll also remember is during the mom's trip last year, it was a stop in Columbus, and I took my daughter, and Jack's mother took everybody to lunch. All the ladies, all the mums and the sisters and the daughters got to go for lunch at a golf club, and it was on the Roslovics. And I remember that Jack Roslovic, his mother, took my daughter kind of under her wing for that. And I'm eternally grateful for that, because you're sending your 12-year-old daughter off with a bunch of mums, right? And you don't know what's going to happen at this golf club, but it was great. And then the other thing is, Patrik, same kind of thing. I mean, he was always accommodating whenever I asked for 5 minutes of his time. But I will say this, I really enjoyed watching him go back to Finland when we had that trip a couple of years ago. And the way he handled himself with the aplomb and the pressure that was on him. And then the first game, he scores a hat trick, right?
Naturally.
That was great. But then when we came back, and I interviewed him, it might have been a couple of weeks, a month later. At the end of the interview, instead of saying thank you, I said kiitos to him, which is thank you in Finnish. And he looked at me and he smiled and he had a little bit of a twinkle in his eye, appreciative of the fact that I had taken some time in our brief time over there to learn a little bit of Finnish. And I just always felt like he had learned English so well that it was only incumbent on me to learn a little bit of Finnish as well. I watched both of them play for a number of years here, really watched Patrik playing, and I enjoyed watching him play for all these years. I wish him nothing but the best, and both of them nothing but the best in Columbus.
Two great guys, and we, like you said, Paul, wish them all the best as they move forward in their NHL careers. Well, on behalf of Pierre-Luc Dubois, myself, Mitchell Clinton, and Paul Edmonds, thank you so much for listening for Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets.
This is Big Ground Control, the official podcast of the Winnipeg Jets, hosted by Jets TV. For Jets news, videos, and more, head to winnipegjets.com.